Thousands of foreigners seek admission to these United States each year. They come to America seeking opportunity and freedom, which has been denied them in the land of their birth. To them, this great city of New York is America's first frontier. But how many of us modern Americans realize that America's first frontier actually lies some 1,200 miles south of New York? St. Augustine, Florida, struggling down through history under the flags of three nations, may justly be called America's first frontier. For St. Augustine was settled in 1565, 55 years before the Pilgrim Fathers landed on Plymouth Rock. And today one may still see quaint century-old buildings and landmarks at every turn. Horse-drawn buggies with darky drivers are still the favorite mode of transportation for those who pause to tour this quaint old city. One of the outstanding points of interest is Fountain of Youth Park, so named because Ponce de Leon landed in the vicinity of St. Augustine in 1513 while searching for a spring which he had heard would bring eternal youth. This was just 21 years after Columbus discovered America. The historic myth of the spring still clings to it, and perhaps this old lady, too, hopes that its waters may bring eternal youth. This cross contains 15 stones running east and west and 13 north and south. 1513, the year when Ponce de Leon discovered Florida. Fountain of Youth Park is not only interesting for its relics and tradition, there are also many natural beauty spots on the grounds. This lovely old southern home carries us back to the days of slavery, before the war. Here we see a replica of an Indian tribal house. Today it stands over a burial ground discovered by workmen while setting out orange trees. These skeletons have been identified by the Smithsonian Institute as those of Indians who died 350 years ago. They were among the first American Indians buried under Christian influence. The Fountain of Youth Park is not only noted for its fountains, but also for its relics of bygone days. These old city gates are all that remains today of the barrier which surrounded the city in 1621, protecting the settlers from attack. The original little red schoolhouse, built of hand-hewn red cedar. It was old when the Civil War began. Half a century ago, these old fellows learned their reading, writing, and arithmetic right here. And here's the schoolyard the Civil War youngsters played in and squabbled while Yank and Rebel fought up north. The original city itself is laid out around the Plaza de la Constitution. This old marketplace is of interest to every visitor. Today it is commonly known as the Old Slave Market. And this post office building was once a Spanish governor's palace. Although the exact date when this house was erected is not known, it is very old and said to be the oldest in the ancient city. The Franciscan fathers, whose nearby monastery burned centuries ago, are believed to have occupied this house for a time. The narrowest street on the continent, a stone post now prevents tourists from attempting the impossible, a drive through it. Started in 1638, it took over 100 years to complete Fort San Marco, the best preserved of any early American fortification. During the 38-day siege of St. Augustine by General Oglethorpe, this ancient fort gave protection to 2,100 settlers. And today, thousands walk upon the ramparts where attacks of Indians, British, and pirates were stood off by its garrison. The monotonous beauty of palm trees draped in Spanish moss, always a welcome sight to visitors. Also the magnificent palms that adorn the scenic bridle paths. What is this, darkest Africa? No, it's an alligator farm, the largest in the world. It's feeding time, and the keeper assures us they don't care whether it's a fish or a... Maybe these little fellows would make nice pets, or maybe we should say snappy pets. They tell us that this old fellow is over 800 years of age, an antique suitcase in the raw. Abilene Street in the old Spanish Quarter has changed but little as the centuries have gone by. One does not have to draw very heavily on the imagination to picture such scenes as these out of the past. No visit to St. Augustine would be complete without seeing the ancient house which tradition maintains Don Toledo built for his bride. The legend says that Don Toledo was the first white man to marry an Indian maiden. And consequently, this old house still stands as a monument to their romance.